tell you a little bit about myself so you know kind of what my background is and why I'm here and why I care so much about leadership and development. So like he said, I graduated from Washington State in 2003. I was the horse girl. All I'm going to do is practice on horses. I don't care about cats, especially cats. And dogs are great as pets, but I don't want to treat them. So I was that girl in vet school. So I went down and did an internship, all equine. Wasn't sure, I kind of was leaning toward imaging and performance horse medicine, but I wasn't sure if surgery was still maybe an option. So I went to a hospital where I was going to see all of those things. Dr. Rantanen was at the hospital where I did my internship, and he's an equine radiologist who's phenomenal. So it was pretty quick. I was like, yeah, imaging is what I love, imaging and lameness. And so when I finished my internship, now my internship, that's a key part of my story. It was the worst year of my life. Horrible. I mean, it was horrible. Both my intermates quit. A couple surgeons quit. They needed somebody to be mad at. I was the person they were mad at. And so when I finished my internship, I was a fraction of who I was when I started. It was borderline abusive. And I finished. And so I was the high of veterinary school. I loved what I was doing. I got into this internship. After about 3 months, I was just like, if this is veterinary medicine, I don't want to have anything to do with veterinary medicine. And so I finished that, and I was not sure, I really wasn't sure what I was going to do. And so fortunately, when I was in vet school, Dr. Kathy Ruby had been hired as a psychologist. And so her first year as the psychologist for solely the vet school was my first year as a student. And she and I became very good friends, and so it's always great to have a psychologist as a good friend. So I called her, and I'm just like, I hate this. I'm broken. I don't know who I am anymore. And she says, you need to come to the VLE. And so they had just started this leadership program, and she developed it because she felt like there's got to be a different way for us to train our students. When she started, it was kind of a new position, and they didn't know if they even needed a counseling professional in veterinary school. And so she started within 3 weeks, her schedule was booked with students, faculty, staff, booked. And so clearly there was a need for somebody coaching, mental health support, all of those things, which we now are finally, 15 years later, recognizing we've got issues in our profession as far as how do we keep our people healthy so that they can thrive. So I went to the VLE. It was a really important thing for me, and I thought, okay, veterinary medicine doesn't totally suck. I need some different skill sets to be able to manage what it means to be a veterinarian, what it means to work with people who maybe don't care about life balance the way I care about life balance, who are in this traditional top-down, do what I say, not what I do leadership role, that whole kind of thing. And so I started to be involved with veterinary leadership experience, and I came back, and I just begged every year, can I come back? I want to facilitate, and I just kept going and going and going. And then at that same time, I got a job. I did a year of ambulatory with a group of guys who helped me fall back in love with veterinary medicine. So it was a mixed animal practice, predominantly horses. But because I was low man on the totem pole, I got to do all the sheep and cows and goats that I know nothing about. But it was really pigs. I took care of several pigs, and I call it my James Harriet year because I just got, I'd go out and I'm like, okay, this sheep has a tibial fracture and I have no idea what to do. And Dr. Colbert was just like, just put a cast on, it'll be fine. I have his legs covered with poop. No, it doesn't matter. Just scrape some of it off, put a cast on it. Okay, and so I got to do stuff like that on a very regular basis, and so I fell back in love with what I wanted to be. And then after about a year in a truck, I just missed the imaging and the lameness too much, and so I got a job in a performance horse practice, and I was the imaging center director, and that's what I did for 6 years. So all imaging, all lameness. So we had an MRI, we had the first standing MRI, bone scan, ultrasound, all that kind of stuff. I tried to buy into that practice. That's what ultimately I wanted to be a practice owner. If I can't be a radiologist, I'm going to be a practice owner. My boss and I couldn't get it worked out. He was a very typical equine solo practitioner, 25 years. He wasn't really keen on my new leadership model. And we just couldn't get it worked out. Not a super negative thing. I mean, we can still talk to each other, and but it just wasn't going to work out for me to be a practice owner at his practice. And so if you're not going to be a practice owner, but you're acting like a radiologist, reading films like a radiologist, not getting paid like a radiologist, you gotta, so I bit the bullet and I went back and did a residency, which was really hard because I was a horse girl and I knew nothing about small animals, and I'm still trying to learn about small animals. So I can, to get the clinical perspective. I think I can read the films fine, but it's I want to be the kind of radiologist that is actually helpful, right? That doesn't just say, okay, you've got 25 findings. So I'm trying to get a feel for the clinical practice part of it, which has been really fun. So I did a non-traditional residency and the whole reason I did that is because I wanted to stay in the same house as my husband. And he has a great job. So we live in Southern California. We moved down to California. That's where I did my internship. Fell in love with the sunshine and the horses, so we stayed in California instead of moving back up to Washington. Because horses in Washington are covered with mud all the time. And so the horses in California are slick and clean and shiny, and it's warm. So I stayed in California. And so he has a great job in California, in Southern California, and I just wasn't willing to move away from him for 3 years to go do a residency. So I interviewed at Western, and they helped me put together this non-traditional program. A lot of really awesome things about it, a lot of really sucky things about it too. And I'm struggling to pass my boards because nobody really took me under their wing, and so I've kind of been flailing a little bit. If I had to do it all over again, I probably would do it the same way, with a few caveats. But so throughout all of that, I stayed involved with the Veterinary Leadership Institute. I got a master's in organizational leadership in 2009. And that was the first time when I realized veterinary medicine is like 20 years behind the rest of the world. And I would say medicine is so behind just in the way that we teach and train our people, the way that we run our practices. And so I got into this program, and I was very fortunate in that one of my main professors was trained by Peter Drucker. Do any of you know who Peter Drucker is? If you're interested in leadership and you're interested in organizational development, Peter Drucker was light years ahead of his time. He's called the father of management. Like his ideas were revolutionary. And so one of my main professors was a student of his, and he was his mentor. And so it was just such a great program, but we started talking about like all the concepts that we're talking about. I'm like, what do you mean that we have this whole different leadership model, this whole different paradigm of collaborative leadership, getting everybody, involved and bought in, and it doesn't have to be I told you so, you do it because I said so. And it opened my eyes to the fact that, gosh, we're really behind. If we just made a couple changes, we could have a really thriving, really awesome profession. And so that became my mission. That became one of my it's so, the research is out there. And so I've spent the last 10 years banging my head against the wall, trying to help others. And it's unfortunate because we've got a broken system. And so what's so exciting to me, and why I am agreeing that you guys are one of 4 states that we're kind of doing a pilot program, coming to do some additional training. We at the VLI are doing some pilot program to see, does this resonate with you guys who are here because clearly leadership matters to you. If we start to talk about this, can we start to have a tipping point so that the system changes? Because a lot of people will say, change will happen one funeral at a time. And I used to believe that. But I don't anymore because the funerals have been happening and the change isn't happening. And I think what happens is, in order to be successful in the system, and I'll use the NVMA as an example. If you're going to be successful rising through the ranks in the NVMA to get to a point where you actually have authority to make some change, you've had to adjust your leadership style to fit to the system. And then when you get to that leadership position, it's the same leadership model because you had to adopt it to get. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And I think that one of the things I love about state PMAs is it's different in the state VMAs because it's a smaller group. I think that the executive directors, you guys have a great executive director who's on the totally, absolutely, who is innovative and thinking about these things. Like, we need to get the young people involved. We need to get them before they've been. Because I have several friends in the AVMA, and I just was at the meeting, and I don't get to see them. And I remember what they were like before they started, and then I get there and I'm like, who are you? Like, you're politicking with me, and you're making sure that so-and-so see, and I'm not a politician, which is part of the reason that I struggle, right? Because I don't play games like that. And so I had to go to this. I had to go to Dr. Cohn, who was just the president. He's a VLE supporter. And I went to his, his reception as outgoing president, and I didn't really want to go because it's all the shaking hands, and and I'm just like, I don't really want to be here, but I have to because I'm trying to put on the right face, and I'll still speak my mind, and I'm trying to speak it a little bit more emotionally intelligently, but we've got to change. Like, we don't have time to mess around and wait. And so I'm really excited to be here with you guys. So so the passion comes from my own experience in veterinary medicine, in my internship, in trying to buy into a practice. Now I do some consulting. I read films for a small animal practice. Just started 2 months ago. I'd never had any small animal clinical experience, and so I spend one afternoon a week in this practice. And so it's probably been 6 afternoons I've been up there. Total of maybe 20 hours, and I already have compassion fatigue. And I'm not even interacting with the clients, right? Like all the veterinarians have recognized, oh, she does this other stuff. She does this leadership stuff. She knows about emotional intelligence. So I just sit, we've got our x-ray table, and I just kind of hang out back there, and I'm looking at films. And if they need help, they can come back and ask me. And most of it is I'm just learning from them, because I'm like, what does a black cat look like clinically? Because I don't know. So I'm learning from them. But they come and they sit on the table, and this is, I think was I telling you these stories? So this one veterinarian, I think she probably graduated in 2009, 2010, so she's 4 or 5 years out. And she'll sit down on the table and she goes, okay, so this just happened. I'm like, what just happened? And all I want to do is talk about radiology and cases, right? This just happened. So the dog comes in, the dog needs surgery. It's husband and wife, dog needs surgery. Those of you who work in small animal are going to just totally resonate with this. I had no clue. Dog needs surgery, dad doesn't want to pay for it, mom wants the dog to have surgery. They get in a screaming, yelling fight in the exam room. Yeah, so you guys all know this. People don't do this in equine. The equine people are not nearly as crazy as the small animal people. I'm just going to go on record. Screaming, yelling fight. Mom borderline gets physically abusive and gets dad to sign begrudgingly the consent form. So she said, but I am now going to have to make 2 phone calls because they're not speaking to each other. And so she tells me this story, and I'm sitting there listening, and I'm like, what? And then she just walks away for her 15th appointment. And then 3 or 4 appointments later, she comes in, sits on my desk, or my little x-ray table. Okay, so this just happened. 20-something-year-old, just got a dog, puppy. It's got a heart murmur. It's probably got a PDA. Needs surgery. We got to fix it or we're going to euthanize stuff. She doesn't have the money, of course, to do surgery to fix the PDA. Sobbing because she's got to put her dog down because she can't afford to do what it needs to do to be. Really? This is one day. And she's just like, Betsy, this happens day after day after day. I'm like, it's no wonder we're burned out. We don't know how to, and then add on to it, like you guys are. I'm looking at the graduation dates. Add on to it the debt that you've got, right? I was fortunate in that I just got through school right before the tuition craziness. My vet school loan right now, my interest rate is
don't even say it.
1.24. My master's degree was at 6.9, but it's like free money. That's free money. I don't even worry about my vet school loan because it's a quarter of what, like my students at Western, they're graduating with 275. 275. That's a mortgage. So this is why I'm here, because you guys have to be the people that are out there in your practices, buying practices, I hope, and figuring out how do we create for our profession a sustainable model of leadership, of inclusion, of all of those things, so that we can be successful. So that's why I do this, because I had my own experience, and now I'm having these experiences in small animal where I'm like, holy, what? This is crazy. Because equine was hard, but it was nothing like what I'm experiencing in small animal. And I think equine is hard because the practitioners in equine are hard. Like, none of them get work-life balance at all. Well, I shouldn't say none of them. A handful of them are starting to recognize what that, like a 90-hour work week is not healthy and conducive to life, right? Any of you solely equine practitioners? No. All right, so I have to say thank you to AVMA PLIT. They are the reason that I'm here. They're covering all the costs associated with me, my travel, all of those things. So Dr. Domlin at AVMA PLIT is a huge believer in the next generation and getting you guys the skills that you need to be successful in the 21st century. So she was the impetus behind us coming. So I'm going to go. I'll be here, Michigan, Colorado, and Indiana. So she is supporting us coming to talk to you guys. So I think that I just want to give them some props for sure.
What was her name?
Janet Domlin. She's the head honcho at the AVMA.
How do you spell her last name?
Donlin. And she is fabulous. They're the biggest supporter of the Veterinary Leadership Institute. They actually put their money where their mouth is on leadership development. So I will forever be indebted to the PLIT. I don't care how high they raise my premiums. I will always buy insurance from them because they have been so instrumental in this. So here are my goals. I have very ambitious goals for us in the next couple hours. We're going to define leadership. We're going to take some time because I think that's an important place to start from, to kind of wrap our heads around what do we see leadership, what is it? Then we're going to break it down into some skills and behaviors. I'm going to talk a little bit about our VLI philosophy throughout this, so you'll get a feel for where we're coming from. I want us to really think about influence. We'll talk more about that. And then I'm going to give you the opportunity to reflect about your own current situation, and then see where do you personally in your own work, maybe it's in your family, maybe it's some, it doesn't have to be professional, but it's based on the fact that we're here as veterinarians. I want you to think about where you want to have influence, and then we're going to work together to develop a strategy for that.